want to talk about is mobile, the mobile threat. We all know we're having the mobile threat because how many have a phone? Does anybody not have a phone? What do you put on that phone? Right? I think we all got at least one. Some of us has two, some of us has three, right? Well, everything you put on that phone is compromised very easily. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about SCADA, critical infrastructure. It is and will continue to be a main threat and a vector of attack. Okay? And then sophisticated malware. Antivirus is not going to protect us, so we're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about social engineering and data loss. Social engineering is huge because no matter how much we put in all these products, all this technology, how do we get the human factor? Managing the human factor is a huge concern because almost everybody will click. Perfect example. How many of you have been using Windows and all of a sudden you see a box pops up and says, this action needs to be access the system? You click yes. Does anybody click no? If you click no, it doesn't work. So all our users are always going to click. So we have to talk about another solution because user account control, which is what that's called, is not effective. All right? So in the mobile world, what are we talking about? We're talking about hacking the iPhone. Right? How many have the iPhone? How many have Android? How many have tablets, all these other devices, right? What are we doing with those devices? Anybody banking? Don't bank with that device. I don't care what all these banks and everybody, I know a lot of them are here, they tell you, we still are not there with device security yet. Bring your own device, hack the iPhone, yeah, there's an app for that. Okay? We have apps for all these types of things, so if you're using that device for banking, I can compromise that data. This is a whole new threat that continues to rise. Okay? Insecure apps. Who's testing those applications you put on your phone? No one. You are testing those. Okay? And since the beginning of computers, we have been relying on programmers. So now you got people developing apps. Oh, they're really cool. I mean, I got a lot of cool apps too, but unfortunately, no one's testing those. So every time you put an app on your phone, you're increasing the risk to compromise. So again, what do you have on your phone? There's a framework out there, and I would promise not to get technical because I was told not to get technical. That's hard for me. Smartphone pen testing framework. And all I have to do is find a new vulnerability, develop an exploit for it, and guess what? If I send you an SMS and you click on the link in that SMS, I just got access to your phone. Okay? There's no protections in your phone. It's like client-side hacking. Okay? This is the problem. It used to be we had to write all this code, do all these cool hacking things 25 years ago when I first got into hacking, those types of things. But the exploit toolkits, the frameworks like the smartphone pen testing, those types of things, it makes it point-and-click hacking. Okay? We're going to talk about social engineering, how easy the threat and the attack is to carry out today. Critical infrastructure, mentality of an isolated environment. I can't tell you how many times I went to clients and the client says, we're SCADA, we're isolated. That's our mentality. We used to keep our critical infrastructure systems on an island. Is that the case anymore? Well, I got some slides coming up that's going to show no, that's not the case. Okay? They're the same challenges we faced on networks for 20 plus years. So now when you take that SCADA system and you connect it, now you've got all the vulnerabilities, everything that we've had to deal with in the network side. So now you've put them into critical infrastructure. And the way to think about it is, I go into an actual environment, again, not going to get too technical, and I ask them, well, there's going to get a pen test done. I says, what is your service pack on your Windows 2000? Because first they got Windows 2000. This is just 2 years ago, not that long ago. Windows 2000 has been discontinued for a long time. All right? So it's bad enough having Windows 2000. But the next question was, well, what service pack? And the guy looks at me and says, what's a service pack? Okay? This is the problem. You have people that have had these isolated environments that have now connected them. And it's fraught with vulnerabilities. And because of that, we have all these attacks going out against critical infrastructure systems. And you're going to see some that is scary, that just going on the internet last night, just clicking on a couple of links, I can show you access right now into critical infrastructure systems. There's an electric company. I can't mention names. I had to be careful to not mention any names. But I will tell you it was in the GCC. It was in the GCC that they had a Windows 2000, no service pack, publicly facing the internet. Okay? This is the problem we have. I won't mention companies or countries. Okay? Maybe I'll mention a couple of countries coming up. I don't know. Significant threat is hacktivism, hacking for a cause. We've all heard about the anonymous group, LawSec, right? The WikiLeaks, the Bradley Manning, those types of things. How do you defend against somebody who feels they're in the right? Look at all these types of what they call their manifesto or their guidance. What do they always say? We are in the right. Right? Why are they in the right? Modern day portrayal by the media as their Robin Hood. Right? Rob from the rich to give to the poor. It's the same concept mentality that they have. So if you go read about Anonymous, you read LawSec, you read any of their guidance or their information, they feel like they are hacking for a cause and they are right and everybody else is wrong. So how do you defend against somebody who has no fear of getting caught? Because they're going to tell their story to the media, and a lot of media people will portray them as a modern-day Robin Hood. So they kind of like this concept. How easy to find targets? We got a thing called cloud scanners. Everybody heard of the cloud? Yeah? Well, it's funny because we're talking a lot about the cloud lately, like this year, last year, that type of stuff. You know how many years ago at the hacking conferences we had actual contests, and the contest was hacking the cloud? So 5+ years we've been practicing hacking the cloud, waiting for you to come. Guess what? You've all coming. We've been waiting to hack you, and now you're coming to the cloud. You're making it easier. You're coming to us. That's the best hack in the world. Get the actual target to come to you. The one I'm going to show real quick is Shodan. Okay? So here on Shodan, if you go on this simple little website on the internet, you can see, if I want to look at people's webcams, I can click on that link. I'd be careful what you see on webcams. You never know. Okay? Anybody Cisco fans? If you have Cisco and you're running their web server, Cisco has what we call Cisco iOS last modified. If I click on that link, it'll show me all the public-facing Cisco devices that have a web server on. Okay? These cloud scanners are the challenge today. It used to be Google hacking. You know, Johnny Long wrote the famous book, Google Hacking. But now we have cloud scanners because everything's in the cloud. Everybody keeps putting it in the cloud. So now we scan it and we find it in the cloud. It's much easier to find vulnerabilities and do our hacking than it used to be. Thank you very much, cloud. We like that. SCADA. Of course, if cloud, they've been practicing hacking, what are they going to start looking at? SCADA, critical infrastructure. So if you look at this one, look at all the different searches for SCADA. Okay? You want to find an actual telnet, which is an insecure protocol access. Right there is the third search. The Dutch climate controls. You want to go take control of some things, turn the air conditioning off, or maybe turn it up, or turn the heat up, those types of things. All these are publicly facing the internet. This is the problem we have today. People have this mentality that our SCADA systems or our critical infrastructure systems are not connected, but they are, and they become more and more connected every day. Okay? And this gets a little bit scary as you start looking here. Anybody remember the famous Stuxnet attack? It was against the Siemens PL7, right? What is it there? S7, the Siemens S7, and that's as of 27 December 2012. You mean we had another vulnerability in the Siemens? Yes, we did. Okay? There's been backdoors found in the Siemens PLC, the program logic controller. These are the challenges we have. Our system of patching software, those types of things, is broken, but it's the best we have, as we'll discuss coming up. Okay? So I tried to modify these so I couldn't get somebody in trouble. Hopefully I don't, but anyway. It's nothing but what I found. It's too much information on SCADA systems. And if you look, what do you have here? Net bias. Now, I remember I said I can't go technical. But that's like everybody just going out and telling you, hi, my name's Kevin. Hi, my name's Kevin. But you're doing it across the network. There's no authentication involved. I did this without anything other than a query across the internet, and I pulled, that's the internal network information from Microsoft. Okay? This should never be allowed. If you do a pen test and we find this, we start smiling. We should never see this coming from the internet. This is security problems big time, because now I can enumerate or pull all that information and find a vector to attack you. Okay? So this is a huge problem. And if you notice here, it's a work group. Now, if anybody's ever configured Windows, you know when you configure Windows, it says, do you want a domain or are you going to be a standalone? Well, since it's work group and it's defined in what we call the net bias table, guess what? This is a standalone server that's never been connected to a domain. How many people, when they put out a server, especially if it's not on a domain, do any type of security protections? Very few. So now as an attacker, putting on my hacker hat, now I see this is probably going to be a pretty easy hack. Okay? But it gets worse. Here we go, web SCADA. Why do we call our servers web SCADA if it's a SCADA server? Why do we do that? I don't know. Why is a web SCADA server facing the public-facing internet? The mentality is, and it's unfortunate, they put the front end on a web server and they think, oh yeah, we're protected. I can't tell you how many times I've been doing a pen test and I've got to the web front end, broke through it, got to the back end, and the back end was critical infrastructure, even though it was public-facing web server. Why? Because those programmers, all right, I come from a programming software engineering background. We don't usually write code to make it secure. We write it so we can go home at night, right? To make it secure takes a lot more time. So that's kind of why I got out of programming. Look at this one. Those, again, not technical details, but the IPC, that $ is what we call a hidden share, inter-process communications. All that means is if I go to connect to that machine, it's got a vulnerability, or Microsoft calls it a feature. I don't know. Is it a vulnerability or a feature? It depends. Anyway, it depends who you ask. The problem is if I connect to that share, I can pool or enumerate information. Why? Because it has what's called an anonymous user, anonymous connection. So I have an anonymous null user, so that means no user with a null password. And I can dump the shares, which I've done here. Look, anybody remember your C drive? That C drive is accessible from the internet right now. And it's on a Windows XP machine. The older machines you have, the more data I can enumerate or pool from that actual machine. Okay? Again, though, why is this coming across on the internet, the public-facing internet? None of this should ever be allowed. Everybody says, well, we got a firewall, Kevin. The firewall's useless if you're doing this, and this is the problem. No matter what filter you have or firewall or whatever, we have to allow access. That's why hackers win and they continue to win, because they have to allow access. Okay? That's why we're always fighting a losing battle. We'd have a perfect world if we just closed it and no users. Problem is, we wouldn't have a job, so that's not going to work. Look at this one. Another one in that bias response, but look what this one gave me. Yeah, I don't know how many, I don't want to get technical, but the MAC address is like giving away your home address. That's your physical address of your network. So now I have the physical address. So if anybody thinks about networking, you know, we're basing a principle of trust on a 40-year-old protocol called TCP/IP. So if I pretend to be that MAC address, now all your data will go to me. Okay? The problem is that MAC address now is public. It's very easy to spoof or impersonate that MAC address and become that machine. So all the data off the network will come to my machine, the hacker. Okay? We're going to show a tool for that in a little bit so you understand how dangerous that is. Okay, that's, you know, I had only a limited amount of time, so I got to cover a lot of different things. Malware, sophisticated malware, right? Antivirus. Yeah? I hate doing this because now F-Secure, I like F-Secure. F-Secure's done a lot of great things, but unfortunately, we're fighting a losing battle with malware. Why? Because they have to scan memory continuously. Think about that. How much RAM you have or, you know, access memory do you have on machines today? It's getting larger and larger. So how much time is it going to take for tools or products to scan that memory and look for malware? Especially malware that's intentionally designed to hide from them. Okay? So that's a concern. Organized crime backing, nation state backing. This is, you know, it used to be I wrote a worm, you know, somebody writes it and they're like, hey, I wrote Code Red, NIMDA, Slammer, all these cool worms, look at me. But now you don't hear about the malware. Why? Because it's no longer look at me, it's give me revenue, give me financial. I believe it was mentioned in the opening 100 billion US dollars, those types of things. That's what it's about now. It's about compromising and getting revenue. That's why they can go pay these Ukrainian, Romanian, Russians, Eastern Europe, those types of things, a lot of money to do what? Develop malware that's not detectable by antivirus. Why? Because we got a signature-based technology that's over 10 years old. So we like to call it the 80-20 rule. Your antivirus is going to protect you from about 80% of the stuff, but it's going to miss 20% of the stuff. So how good is that? 2 out of 10 times you're going to get attacked if you get attacked. Not very good. Websites. I can go to a website. I didn't want to mention any websites like that I mentioned with the showdown and stuff like that. There's one I could go to. I'm not going to tell you the name. Talk to me offline if you want to know more. I can purchase malware, and they tell you this will not be detected by antivirus. And they guarantee it. You give them your credit card, actually, or PayPal or whatever you want, and they'll let you purchase it. And the day it's detected by antivirus, guess what they'll do? They'll issue a service pack so it's not detected. Okay? This is professional software development lifecycle because there's so much revenue being gained from identity theft. All right? And social engineering. Users are always going to click. I asked anybody, have you ever not clicked? We all click. Right? The problem is you have to change your mentality Because our old days was don't click on, I mean, what was the advice we gave everybody? When you receive an email from somebody you don't know, don't click. That's easy enough. But what about when you receive emails from people you know? That's what hackers started doing, right? Or better yet, we have that sophisticated thing called spearfishing we'll talk about. We can't patch the human. I can't go and give a software patch to a human. I mean, we'd like to, give them a patch and say, hey, update yourself. But the mentality, most people are going to click. Okay? World Cup. Anybody like to watch football or soccer or whatever we call it, football everywhere else in the world? Yeah? Perfect example. During the World Cup in the UK, 200,000 machines compromised. Why? Somebody sent an email, spoofed the address of actually a company, and said, hey, click here for the latest information on the World Cup. 200,000 machines compromised. So even though we might not click, somebody's going to click. Somebody's always going to click. The Java attacks. Anybody seen all the 0-day, no patch known? And for Java, lots of them, yeah? Okay? Client side, cross-platform, hackers love it, right? Always on. Adobe. Anybody got Adobe? Huge problem. Okay. I'm running out of time. Actually, I'm not running out of time. We have to modify that. What we're going to do is, because we got started a little bit late, we will actually move the panel to after the first break. And this is because the ministers and everything, they have very busy schedules. They have to leave, so we're going to go with the talk until they have to leave at 10:10 or right around there. Okay. All right. How many have social media? I keep telling my daughter, she's 14 now, she's on Facebook. She's like, Dad, get on Facebook, because she lives with my first wife, stuff like that. It's like, Dad will never get on Facebook. Okay? Just say no. Problem is, yeah, we can say no to Facebook, but what about LinkedIn? We all like LinkedIn, right? Because that's our way to communicate and get some contract work. I'm a freelance consultant, so there's always going to be ways that we can find information. Okay? The reality is people are always going to have social networking. Okay? LinkedIn, those types of things. Shared data between profiles. If you have these, do not put data into profiles that you use as your lost password. Anybody remember you go somewhere and you're like, man, I can't remember that password. We all got that problem, right? Because you change your password every so often. So you click on lost password and it asks you those challenge questions. Do not put information publicly in the internet that's the answer to those challenge questions. Okay? Sarah Palin, when she was running for president, her Yahoo account got hacked. Why? They said, where did you meet your husband? They pull up her book, and it says right there where she met her husband. Answered that question. Where did you go to school? It's in her book. Where do you go to school? Bang, lost password. I've got your account. Okay? So do not share data between the profiles. Better yet, don't have any profiles. But unfortunately, that hurts too, as I'll talk about coming up. Social engineering again, right? So what exactly is social engineering? Attacking the human factor. We know people are going to click. So because of that, the hackers win. They're going to click, right? It makes our job easy. All we have to do is send something, and somebody's going to click on it. And most people say, well, Kevin, if I get this, I want a BMW, right? Yeah, we get that email, I want a BMW. We're not going to click. We're IT people. But if I send 10,000 of them out and only 1% click, I've got 100 accounts compromised, okay? And unfortunately, somebody's always going to click, okay? This is the problem. We used to have to write a lot of code. I'll give you an example. I have a course that I'm technical editor of, and it's a hacking course, pen testing course, and we've had it now for about 7 years, and we used to, 7 years ago, have to go through a lab about an hour and a half to get this thing set up to where we could do this attack and stuff like that. Now, because of the advances in this thing called the Social Engineering Toolkit, which I'll show in a moment, we can do that entire lab in 5 minutes. We used to have to write all this code. You don't have to write code anymore. All you have to do is kind of maybe enter a number or really just click in most cases because of the toolkits. This social engineering toolkit is an amazing tool. And it's because they want to show point and click is out there. That's all we have to do is point and click, and then we can say, oh, I want to pretend to be PayPal. I want to pretend to be Bank Y, Bank X, Bank those types of things, okay? Yeah, they're waving the thing at me again. If you guys didn't notice, we're going to go with the talk up until the end and then see where we're at time-wise. They keep telling me I'm out of time. I like to talk. We have tools called Droid Sheep and Fire Sheep, right? If you do a search on the internet, my name and Las Vegas and attacks, you will see me being interviewed by Fox News and showing a picture of Droid Sheep. Droid Sheep, where do you think it runs? Droid. Where's Droid come from? Android, right? Runs on an Android. So what I've got there, I've got a tablet on the plane, right? In America, you get on the plane and they give you Wi-Fi. Yeah? Wi-Fi, great, Wi-Fi on the plane. So how many people on the plane are logging into Wi-Fi? So with Droid Sheep, I'm showing you that all these people logging into Wi-Fi are not in a secure connection. So with Droid Sheep using Social Engineering Toolkit, if I was a malicious hacker or authorized and paid to do it, I could take over any session. In fact, hackers do it all the time. If you're on the plane and you're logging in like we do in the States all the time, stuff like that, you're not protected. So I can go into that data, and I've literally watched people log into Facebook, right? And they're in Facebook, and I'm watching them type their message in Facebook. I'm just watching everything they're doing right there in Facebook. Why? Because Social Engineering Toolkit makes it so easy now. I used to have to write all this code, but I don't have to do it. Droid Sheep, all those tools do it for me. Okay? There it is, Social Engineering Toolkit. So I won't go into it too much, but if you look down here, the attack vector, spearfishing. We're going to talk a little bit about RSA attack. Spearfishing is where I identify, right, the users, and I say, okay, if I send this as a masquerade as somebody up high up in the elevation and like an executive, and I send it out to all your users, and they get it and say, ooh, managing director, got an email for everybody. How many people is going to look at that email? Everybody, okay? And the RSA hack, we'll talk more about it, that attachment said pay rates for next fiscal year. How many people is going to double click and open that PDF and look what they're getting paid next year? Well, that's how RSA got compromised, okay? Again, spearfishing works. And now we've called it whaling. Why? Because you go after a really big fish, a CEO. So now they've got that technique called whaling. So all these techniques are part of this social engineering toolkit. If you look there at the second one, Java applet. And we really love this attack. I mean, we love it from, I'm sorry, but this is what I do. I'm a penetration tester, and I'm always on offense usually. Sometimes I get to play defense. But we love it because it just happened recently. The Java attack, the zero day, that I don't think a patch has come out for yet. I think it's still vulnerable. When the box pops up and says Java needs to run. Anybody seen that box before? You know, Java, oh, it needs Java, or you need an update to Java, those types of things. Every time you click yes or okay, you're giving me access. You're giving me a shell into that machine. That's how the social engineering toolkit works. And it's amazing because the first time I was testing it, the actual author of the course, I was a technical editor, he had created this little lab and I was doing it, and I clicked kicking yes because I wasn't sure exactly. I hadn't read through the lab that closely. I go back over to my hacking machine, I got like 25 shells or access into that machine, right? Because every time you click yes, it gives you access. This is the challenge because this makes it easier. And then we got web attacks, you know, USB attacks, all available from a menu. If you click on any one of those attacks, it says which attack do you want to perform. You tell it. You say what website, if it's a website involved, do you want to copy. It will go out and copy the entire website, and then when the website, somebody goes to it, it looks exactly like the real website. They got Gmail, they got Facebook, they got Google, they got all these websites that look really cool. And it's going through the social engineering toolkit, which is how we compromise all your data. Data loss, right? Perfect lead-in. Laptops. Anybody got laptops? Is everything encrypted, self-encrypted drives, those types of things? You should have. You need to encrypt anything. It's the same as the cloud. Anything you store in the cloud, I don't care if everybody says, well, it's a private cloud, Kevin. That's what the military told me years ago when we had what we call our SIPRnet, the Secret Internet Protocol Router Network, right? SIPRnet. They're like, well, Kevin, it's encrypted. But it doesn't matter if somebody gets in there and uploads a piece of malware inside your encrypted thing because it's encrypted on the endpoints. So the next thing you know, they had Slammer Worm, they had all these other things spreading on this private encrypted network, right? So any data you put in the cloud, you have to encrypt. If you don't encrypt the data in the cloud, you're probably going to lose it. So it's a rule of thumb we said 20 plus years ago when I was teaching and training people in networks back then. Don't put anything on a network you're not afraid to lose. If you do, encrypt it, right? And we'll talk about that with RSA, because RSA is trying to tell you, oh, it's a sophisticated attack, all this other stuff, okay? What about your phones? How many of you encrypt your data in your phone? A couple of you. How many rely on the actual phone itself to encrypt your data? Well, don't rely on the phone or rely on any apps, right? Always test it and make sure, because a lot of these apps are written with it. It tells you when you install the app, oh, this needs access to your drive. This needs access to your contacts, all those types of things, right? This is all a concern and a huge problem we have with mobile devices, okay? Because what do you have in your phone? Okay? I wish I had the old phone where all it could do is text message and do phone calls. I don't want web. I don't want any of that stuff on my phone. Why? Because I know how hackers get the information off of it. Okay? I'll let my wife have the gadgets. She likes them. Okay? Laptops encrypted, we covered that one. Mobile case study, SCADA, we'll talk a little bit about that. Social engineering with the naive CEO, I call them. Again, I got to be careful, I can't mention names. Okay? There you go. Checkpoint, I love this, where they come down here and say, worldwide leader in securing the internet. Well, I don't really believe that, but that's Checkpoint's site, so anyway. Okay. Eurograbber, nice little cool banking app that stole 36 plus million euros from Europe. Why? Because it's an app. How many people see an app and your bank says, get my app, download this app? Who's testing that app? Okay? And you see all these cool apps and everybody says, oh, try this app. Social media. It used to take a long time for something to spread. But now Twitter, people start tweeting about it. It's tweets, right? Yeah. I don't know, I don't do Twitter. Tweets, all that type of stuff, and they're doing what? They're spreading that information around. So now this is a huge problem. People keep downloading this app and they keep stealing money from it. Right? There's a lot of other ones out there too. I don't want to mention names. So SCADA, Stuxnet, Flame, Aurora, right? Those types of things. The scary thing about Stuxnet was they didn't have to put the code on there to take and exploit through Microsoft, right? Little known at the time, it was found about 6 months after that by a researcher and shown at Black Hat DEF CON in America, the big hacker conference, security conference. There was a back door into the Siemens PLC 7. So because the programmers, anybody programmers? I know I pick on programmers all the time. Yeah, I'm a programmer, yeah, from a background, right, those types of things. Because of that, they put in back doors. Programmers put in back doors, right? Give me access. And this backdoor program was a game. And this hacker found it, so I didn't have to go through the zero-day vulnerabilities where Stuxnet had like 4 0 days on it. I didn't need to do that. I could have went through the back door of the PLC and got access anyway, okay? So Saudi Arabia Aramco, everybody hear that one? That's a pretty good one. They said it was outside the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, right? More than 30,000 computers infected by what? Spearfishing. Have we seen spearfishing anywhere? I talked about spearfishing with Social Engineering Toolkit. This is the problem you have today. Spearfishing's easy. I just take the Social Engineering Toolkit, click, who's my target, point it to them, and somebody clicks. And all I need is one person to click, and I get the data. And that's what they talk about here. The Aramco gets thousands of cyber attacks, right? They get them all the time. And most in the industry that's in a government entity, those types of things, get all these cyber attacks. They're coming all the time. So it's inevitable. If I target you and I take enough time, I'm going to get in, okay? And I know I'm a pen tester, and I'll tell you a little secret of the pen testing world. There's 2 things I can't do as a pen tester. I can't break the law. Well, I can, but I'll go to jail. I don't want to go to jail myself. All right? And I can't spend 6 to 9 months targeting the organization because most of you are not going to pay me 6 to 9 months of a contract. Okay? But real hackers can do that. That's the 2 things they can always do. They can target you 9 months later, attack you. Okay? Again, hackers don't go after the hard part. They find the easy. Why attack a tiger when you can attack a lamb? That's right on Anonymous's manifesto page. Malware, RSA, Allurion, and HB Gary. Talk a little bit about those because RSA. Yeah? Everybody knows RSA? Here I go getting in trouble. RSA conference just finished. I get in trouble when I talk about RSA. But anyway, okay? Because no one's immune, right? ZeroDayInitiative.com. This is a website. So everybody's thinking, well, yeah, I've got this product X, product Y, product Z. Okay, let's get some of those products. How about Cisco? Yeah? Anybody got Cisco down at the bottom? A CVSS, Common Vulnerability Score and Summary of a 10. Means it's the most critical attack we have out there. And look at how many days it came out on February 22nd, 0 day. These are all unpublished advisories if you go to ZeroDayInitiative.com. The way Zero Day Initiative works is if you pay for a subscription, you get information on these advisories. You think hackers might pay for a subscription? I would. Okay, more Cisco, those types of things. How about Oracle? Anybody Oracle fans? Oracle's on the list right there, right? February 22nd was a bad day for security or a good day for hacking. Depends on what side you're on. Right? As you look, all these 0 days came out on February 22nd. So we're losing this race because right now while we're here, right, the second Tuesday of the month is what? Everybody know what second Tuesday is? Microsoft Patch Tuesday. How many people think that patches only come out on Tuesday? Huh? Yeah? Exactly. You know what we call Wednesday in the hacking world? Exploit Wednesday. Because when that patch comes out, how long before you patch it? And now I've just identified all these vulnerabilities, and now I know it's going to take you at least a day, maybe 2 days, so now I can start exploiting. The world knows about the vulnerabilities then, right? Or I reverse engineer the patch and get my code to work that wouldn't work. And not only are we losing, we're losing badly. And why are we losing badly? Because right here, Microsoft, Adobe, Cisco, right? Look at those dates. These vulnerabilities was published 213 days ago to the vendor, Cisco in this case. Critical 7.5, that's a high. Anything above 7 is a high. 213 days of the 10, still not patched. Anybody naive enough to think that only one researcher out there found that vulnerability? When hackers every day do nothing but try to reverse engineer code and find these vulnerabilities? This is why we're losing. We're losing because there's always going to be vulnerabilities in software. We can't get our mentality. We got to change that mentality. We got to think like we know if somebody targets us, they're going to actually get and do the hack. Okay? How about Apple? Anybody think Apple's going to save you? Yeah? Anybody Mac friends, stuff like that? 7.5, 45 days old on Mac. Apple Mac has vulnerabilities like any other software. Software is vulnerable. Okay? Social engineering, RSA was a spearfishing attack. The thing about RSA, what's RSA stand for? Ravesh Shamir Adelman, right? The 3 names of the founders from MIT that founded RSA, now owned by EMC. Okay? They wanted to post and say it was a sophisticated attack, all that type of stuff. I don't care. Why do they have the algorithm of their main revenue generator, Secure ID, on a public network? Can anybody tell me that answer? Number 2, why is it on a public network and what's RSA known for? Encryption? And they don't even encrypt it on their own public network? That doesn't make sense to me either. They're known for encryption. What, do they think their encryption is not that good? I don't know. Okay. CEO, large insurance company, right? Fake profile on LinkedIn. How many people you think seen, oh, look, this CEO of this insurance company. He's a partner. Let's go talk to him. He didn't have an account. Social engineer created his account, had over 250 people in 3 days, high-end banks, all this other type of stuff, trying to be his friend, right? Those are the problems we're dealing with. HB Gary was another spearfishing attack. Okay, running out of time. First National Bank of Southern California, right? This is February 1st, 2013. And how many were compromised? We don't know. Ernst & Young, I had to pick on Ernst & Young. I don't know if they're here or not. If they are, sorry. Okay? It doesn't matter. The data is getting compromised. Why? We forgot something we learned 20 years ago. That is, if it's on a public network, you encrypt it. You cannot guarantee safety if it's on a public network. Okay. How do you monitor it all? Center of Excellence, right? We've talked a little bit cybersecurity. Maintain the cutting edge, technology training, right? Standards, first responders, and CERT, or more importantly, a cybersecurity type of center. This is how you monitor it. This is how, when I was with the American Navy many years ago, we had a network operations center. All the ships, all the internet traffic went through our network operations center before it went to the public internet. That's what you have to establish. It's nice to see now, what, well, it was 1999, so that many years later, 14 years later, we're starting to see that now globally where you need to establish cybersecurity centers of excellence. Lessons learned from GCC. I've been consulting in the GCC for 5+ years. All right, some of the things I learned. Vulnerability management. If you do not have a vulnerability management program, no matter what you fix today, will be vulnerable tomorrow. Because when that new vulnerability comes out, you saw the zero-day initiative, those types of things. When they come out, how are you going to patch it? How are you going to update it? Right? I don't see anybody doing vulnerability management properly. Okay? Training. Strategy and training development plan based on the job role. It's great to have all these cool little certifications, but if they don't teach you the job, what use is the certification? Okay? I always tell everybody, in 2006, I had 0 certifications. Now I have 22. That should tell you something. Okay. Recurring training, you have to do it. We know knowledge is perishable. The Navy, the Army, the CERT, commercial SOCs, I've set up all those training type things. Certifications are what we call showboat skills. They don't cut it anymore. We need skills for the job role. Okay. One last thing, cyber war. Yeah? 0 day. This is actually a threat to cyber, right? The seed and addressing risks in digital universe, global leaders, and what? One of the most complex things in the world is the cyber universe. Now we have to secure it. Not only do we have to secure it, we have to secure it when it's running on a protocol that was developed in 1972. Anybody think about that? 40 years ago, that protocol was developed. What was the size of the internet in 1972? Small. What's the size of the internet today? Huge. And we're still securing it with the same protocol, unless you got IPv6 on. Okay? China building 10,000 cyber warriors a year, according to Alan Pauler, the founder of the SANS Institute. And that, I know we don't have time for questions, is it.